I got a soccer hangover this morning.
I had it in the first half.
Brian and I went to a state high school soccer playoff game, Mac High, last night. The number 3 boys team in the nation pulled out a victory, 3-1 over West Linn, moves on to the semifinals. Hey, if you don't know already, the Chicago Cubs won the World Series.
Really?
Broke the curse, 108 flipping years. And I have an old buddy of mine, Steven Wrobleski, who was there on scene for pretty much the whole deal, is going to join the show, and he's going to tell us a little bit about what's going on. Steven, good morning.
Good morning, Norm. Good morning, Brian. Thanks for having me on.
Hey, not a problem. So Steven and I, we used to umpire baseball together back in the day with the McMinnville Parks and Rec. And, Steven, a good old McMinnville boy, now living up in the Chicago area. And what World Series games did you go to?
Well, we actually attended all 3 World Series games here in Chicago. We the lure of the financial benefit, we couldn't bring ourselves to that. I mean, this is 108 years, so we were season ticket holders, so we decided that we'd attend each and every game. So that's games 3, 4, and 5.
All right, and so let's talk about watching Game 7. Man,
Okay.
you know, what a game! And
Well, amazing.
It really was. You know, as the game wasn't on the field, wasn't really played that well. I mean, you had 4 errors, you had 26 hits, but yet I think is one of the best games I've ever seen.
And I would agree with you, and it's not just because of the bias of being a Chicago Cubs fan, tried and true. You had a little bit of everything in that ball game. You had like you said, not a well played ball game in some aspects defensively. You had a lot of hits. You had a lead that failed, a rain delay. A comeback from behind with the Indians. They made their final stand. You had a little bit of everything that you'd want in a Game 7 of a World Series, or like a winner-take-all bout. So it was an emotional roller coaster. We were cruising. Well, what we felt was cruising along, and then all of a sudden, the Indians gained a little momentum after Hendricks came out of that ball game, and you saw that ball bounce off of Ross's mask and deflect to the side. That's something that you don't know. You don't see that. I mean, you can see a wild pitch, but you don't see it bounce all the way almost to the dugout.
Right.
So, when they scored those 2 runs, you kind of had this feeling that, well, we're not just going to walk our way to the end here. It's going to be a task. So, what an emotional roller coaster. We just took I remember I had to leave the room when Rajay Davis tied that game. I just couldn't believe it. It's almost like you felt like the other shoe was going to drop and they were going to win that ball game. But as we saw, the weather came along and we ended up prevailing.
I sure thought that, when Cleveland, Davis hit that home run, I honestly thought the Cubs were sunk. I picked the Cubs to win in 7, and I honestly, man, it was like taking the helium out of a balloon. And you could just see it suck the life out of the Cubs. But then the rain delay came. And I'll tell you what, was that the best, the perfect time for a rain delay ever in baseball history?
It very well could have been. I think that my wife was sitting right next to me, and she said something that I still believe. She said after that home run, even God was crying. So he decided to put some tears on the field and give us a 30-minute recoup break. And sure as heck, if that wasn't maybe the biggest part of the World Series, the rain delay.
And of all people, Jason Hayward gets the team together in the weight room, and they hash it out. And I'm not there really isn't much talk of what was said, But, of all people, Jason Hayward, who was struggling, pulls off, a leadership, move that, David Ross could have possibly done that, but Jason Hayward,
the much maligned Jason Hayward throughout the season here. The media here all year on his tail about his batting average, and including through the playoffs. He played some great defense during the playoffs, but the most important contribution to the team might have been the World Series winning speech. And some of those details that came out about that speech were that he was saying, we're the best team in baseball. Remember why we're here. And it went around to each person and kind of, picked everybody up, and it almost became like a big circle of men that just were lifting each other up. And as Theo Epstein reported, he was walking down towards the clubhouse at that time and heard that going on. And Theo said to himself at that time, "We're going to win this ball game."
So that final out, Game 7, ball hits Rizzo's glove. Tell us about the emotion.
Man, to describe that emotion, it was like a bittersweet happiness that you felt, because you just felt it's finally relieved itself. You felt a little sense of relief, but really, it was that joy that that I'm alive in this lifetime to be able to watch the Chicago Cubs win this World Series. Watch history, enjoy it. It felt almost impossible at that moment that we had actually conquered the giant. We climbed the mountain to the top finally. So, overall, just an overjoyous and sense of completion. Finally, that bookend. Finally getting there to the top.
I'm going to, I am not necessarily a Cubs fan. I am a baseball fan. But
sure,
when that happened, there was, I shed a few tears. I was thinking of Cubs fans that I knew who are no longer with us. That,
yes, sir.
That I could witness something like this in my lifetime, but they weren't able, they weren't around. And the main one is, I don't know if you remember Gene Herman's. Had a barbershop down on 3rd Street, just right, a couple of doors down from the Deluxe Bar. And
I certainly do, Gene.
He was a diehard. He had Cubs memorabilia up in the barbershop, and he would go to Mesa every year, go to Ho-Ho-Cam Park for spring training. And he was one of the first ones that I thought of. Of course, Gene passed away back in the 90s sometime, late 90s, early 2000. And, and there's many, many others. And I honestly think that this World Series is going to have a huge impact on baseball in this country and worldwide.
Well, I agree with you, because the Cubs are a global team, and they have followers from each and every country. I believe that they have that mass appeal, and I believe, like you said, that it's going to be better for baseball overall, because what an entertaining series that was, and what a bunch of likable guys. The team is not just full of champions; they're full of good people. It's just
right.
Full of people you could be happy to cheer for.
So you go to the parade on Friday, which, by the way, was the 7th largest human gathering in the world history, which is pretty damn impressive. And so tell us, over 5 million people attended the parade?
The reports are that over 5 million attended, and it certainly felt like when you were down there that there was, 5 million people around you. It was chaotic, but it was a good chaotic. It was everybody had a smile on their face, regardless of the situation, regardless of whether or not you were stuck wall to wall with people. Everybody was there for the same reason, and people climbing up into the trees. I mean, we were watching people climb up the trees in Grant Park, in Millennium Park. They were climbing up trees just so they could get a view of the buses when they came by. To be down there at that moment, you felt the collective sigh of relief. You started to feel like you were part of something bigger. And I'll never forget those moments. Even from when we got off the train, we got onto the train in the morning. We live in a town right outside of Chicago called Lombard, and on the platform, you couldn't move on the platform. We got onto the train, and they expressed us right to the city because the train was so full. And just while we're on that train, I'm just sitting there thinking, as I look around, and I'm surrounded by Cubs fans. It's like we're migrating towards something, and it just, everybody had a purpose, and it was just an unbelievable feeling.
One of the best World Series I've ever seen, by far, and I've seen my share of them, and I know a few of the players, C.J. Edwards, Matt Caesar, personally, and man, and for CJ, for Carl Edwards Jr. to have such a big part, they're saying that he is possibly the closer, the Cubs closer of the future. This Cubs team is set for a couple of years. There's talk of them possibly, I don't know if they're going to be able to afford Jake Arrieta. Of course, I'm sure that they'll try to keep him and everything. But those young guys, man, the Cubs, I think Vegas has released that the 3-1 favorites to win it again next year.
That's correct. They are. They're already favored 3-1 to repeat as champions.
That's crazy. So, what do you think? I mean, are they going after Arrieta to try to keep him? Are they going to be able to have the money to keep Arrieta?
I think they have the resources to do what they need to do to either retain Arrieta and or let him go. We kind of witnessed, I think, Arrieta had that dominant stretch last year, and he was a Cy Young winner, but for good reason. This year we kind of saw him work into his own, and maybe a little more what he truly is. A number 2 or a number 3 pitcher overall.
Right.
We kind of lined himself up with, I think, truly what kind of pitcher he is and is going to be. And if he wants to command, the Clayton Kershaw kind of money for, number 3 pitcher, then I think the Cubs will let him walk. I think they have, they'll go out and find somebody else. I think that's just the way that their philosophy works.
Right.
We would love to have Jake Arrieta, but not at an exorbitant amount, enough to where it's going to cripple the team long term because, you see a lot of guys that are coming along here. I mean, the Chris Bryants of the world are going to have to get paid. Anthony Rizzo's going to have to get paid again. The Addison Russells of the world are going to have to get paid. I mean, that'll be a few years down the line, but you can't be crippled by, an aging pitcher's contract. So I think the Jake Arrieta line is going to be an interesting storyline to watch coming up here.
Couple more questions before we let you go.
Sure.
What does this, the old cliche, and it's this question is just overused, but what does this mean to the city of Chicago, number one, for 108 years? And then the final question is sum it all up for you in one word for us.
Okay. To answer your first question, it's finally some good press for the city of Chicago. First of all, just some good press. We're the murder capital of the world. A lot of people hear that.
Right.
We have murders every weekend in the city that set historic highs. So, it's some good news to come out of the city of Chicago for once. Something that we can all be proud of and bring a collective smile to our faces and kind of let us get past some of the uglier things that do go on. So, I would say that it's a bright spot. We also hear about our politicians. It's a glaring piece of sunshine on something that has been looked at so ugly for some time. So I think it's a new breath of life for the city. It kind of kicks them into a good a good vibe, and hopefully they can take that momentum of all this joy and start to turn the corner a little bit.
Right.
So for the city, I think it's a weight off their shoulders and maybe a new lease on life a little bit.
And then one word. Sum it up in one word for us.
Man, you're putting me. My wife, perfect. Jubilation.
Jubilation.
That's the word.
So once again, Mr. Steven Wrobleski, and Steven is an old buddy of mine from McMinnville here, who's now living in the Chicago area. Hey, one final thing. Hey, can you sing a little bit of Cubs Go for us?
I absolutely can. Go Cubs, go! Hey Chicago, what do you say? Hey, the Cubs have already won today.
Steven,
they won.
They did, and I'm still tickled pink. I think for the baseball world, this was the best scenario. It was an even year. My Giants faltered, the Dodgers faltered. In the end, the best team won, and I'll tell you what, the Cleveland Indians, they're no slouch, man. Those guys can flat out play ball as well, and they gave the Cubs a run.
They did, and I think that if they would have won, I would have deemed them a worthy champion. Like you said, they were a phenomenal baseball club to watch, and that's not going to be the first time the Clevelands are in the World Series here upcoming. I think they're going to be right back in it. Once
again, 2016 World Champion Chicago Cubs. How does that sound?
It's an amazing thing to hear. It's an amazing thing to feel. It sounds great, and I like to hear next year 2017 World Series champions. Call me greedy, but hey, you know what? This looks like it's the start of a great run between these gentlemen, and 2016 is just the beginning.
Hey, once again, Steven Wrobleski. Steven, thanks for taking time, and love you, man, and go Cubs, go.
Hey, thank you for having me on, gentlemen. Have yourselves a wonderful day, and go Cubs.
That's right. All right. Brian, you got a take? Man, how much of the World Series did you watch?
I watched quite a bit of it. I do have a take. I think we're going to get to the point here very quickly. We're going to get sick of these Cub fans. Seriously, give it a month, and we're going to be like, oh, man, it's all we hear about. Here we go again. And if they start winning... yeah, right. If they start winning consecutive World Series, if they're there every year for the next 4 years, watch out, the tide will turn.
I'll tell you, I like these guys. I'm not jumping on the bandwagon by any means.
I can say the hat's right over there if you want to put it on. Why don't you grab it? Just go ahead and reach over there. There's the Cub hat.
Hey, I'm a Giants fan. I mean, number one, I'm a baseball fan. I know. I'm not even going to look. I know what's behind me. And so... I really think that this is great for baseball, and as annoying as it's going to get, because you and I have already chatted about a couple of certain people about kind of bandwagoning it, and you know what? I think that's great for baseball, and we've got new Chicago Cubs fans.
Mm-hmm. As long as it brings in new baseball fans, I'm cool.
That's right.
And as long as we don't do any of the Mr. Ross, his new little trick, which he did last night on Saturday Night Live, by the way.
So,
did you see Saturday Night Live last night?
So no, I didn't, but I did see the clip.
Yes.
So there's a new thing, and we're gonna, what did I call it? I called it
DP. DB.
No, I didn't. I called it. What was it? Cock. I can't remember. Cock bonking is what I referred it to. And you got to watch the video of, what was it, Dave Ross's home run in Game 7. And as he's coming around, going to the dugout, instead of the high fives or the chest bumps, we're going to leave it at that.
Yep.
And I'm just amazed by...
I'm amazed that he's the one that's doing it.
I know.
Wait till you see SNL, and if you saw the thing last night in its entirety, yeah, they were funny though. That was the best part of it, actually.
So once again, the Chicago Cubs win the World Series, 7 games, over the Cleveland Indians. And I'll tell you, Cleveland, man, good ball club. Good ball club. Hey, have you seen Jake Arrieta? That dude is cut.
Yes, he is.
Holy crap. And there are some questions raised by him hitting 98 in Game 6. Here you are at the last game of the season, and you're hitting 96 throughout the season.
It happens.
Yes, it does.
Look at Chapman, 102.
Yeah, but there at the end, though, Chapman was gassed.
Well, they used him for more than he'd ever been used before. That's where all my friends who, bandwagon jumpers, by the way, oh my gosh, Madden's ruined him. He's the worst. They got to get rid of Madden. Now he's the best thing in the world again.
But even gassed, Chapman was still throwing harder than everybody else at 98. Mm-hmm. He is unreal.
Yeah, if he can just get some control after pitching 3.5 innings.
Hey, that's Brian. I'm Norm. This is Clubhouse Chatter. Hey, we're going to be back at 9:30 with Tom Gamboa, and the Chicago Cub Love Day is going to continue. Hey, we'll be back.